kind of world are Democrats living in? I came across a Vox article by an interview between Sean Illing and James Carville. I don't know who Sean Illing is, but they're both Democrats. James Carville is a big Democrat. James Carville, yeah, he's a Democrat. Oh gosh, what did he do? Right, net worth 10 million. Yeah, American political consultant. Carville advised Hillary Clinton during her 2008 presidential campaign. All right. Now, what prompted this video was I was reading through this, and it was very interesting because if you're a Democrat, you could look at the state of play and say, we're winning. We won the White House. We won Congress. We have power. It ain't perfect, but it ain't a disaster either. Right? I'm not sure why Democrats are freaking out the way they are. Right? I've been seeing it, but these guys do seem to be concerned and worried. Right? Which, I don't know why. If they've... Now, this is James Carville's response. We won the White House against a world historical buffoon. You can tell they don't like Trump. And we came within 42,000 votes of losing. We lost congressional seats. We didn't pick up state legislatures. So let's not have an argument about whether or not we're off key in our messaging. We are. And we're off because there's too much jargon and there's too much esoterica and it turns people off. Yeah, that's true. And Sean Illing comes back, not to beat a dead horse, but Democrats and Republicans are dealing with very different constituencies. In other words, what Sean Illing is saying is that Democrats are dealing with their Democrat constituencies and Republicans are dealing with the Republicans' constituencies. And what's the difference between these constituencies? Well, Democrats have a big tent. They have to win different kinds of voters, and that means making different kinds of appeals. Not sure what he means by that, unless he's talking about just race, which, they've painted themselves as the party of races. Republicans, we don't have any kind of race platform. Republicans don't have any kind of race platform. Republicans, and this is Sean Illing continuing, Republicans can get away with shit that Democrats can't. I'm not sure what he means by that. Right? Because I have seen Republicans get in all kinds of trouble, and I've seen Democrats do all sorts of crazy stuff. Like calling for violence, calling for mobs to gather around other people, and they just get away with it. They're fine. Right? What was it? Marjorie Taylor Greene got kicked off all her committees. They were like, okay, fine, you can be elected, but we don't have to put you on a committee. Right? So I don't know what they're talking about. But James Carville comes back, yeah, that's a problem. We can only do what we can do. People always say to me, why don't Democrats just lie like Republicans? Because if they did, our voters wouldn't stand for it. Bullshit. Bullshit. And let me show you bullshit. Oh, it looks like you're using an ad blocker. Yes, I am. Now, this is Snopes. Did U.S. Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick die after hit with a fire extinguisher? No. CNN. Of course. Officer Sicknick suffered strokes and died of natural causes, D.C. Medical Examiner says. Now, Snopes, they put it in like it's a question. Right? Now, they ruled it out, but we remember months and months of, oh, this guy died. They killed him. They killed him. These rioters just murdered this man while he was trying to serve his country. And it's just like, nah. I mean, seems he got, maybe got something on his face. Something. But if you're dying like the day after from natural causes, then you can't really be like, oh, they killed him. So that's a lie there. Then we have this other article, mostly false. Snopes is mercilessly mocked for posting biased pro-AC fact check. Right? The self-proclaimed fact-checking site, Snopes, seemed to contradict itself on Wednesday when it claimed the allegation that Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez wasn't in the Capitol building during the riot was mostly false, and then stated that it was true. If you remember, she put out a video on Instagram talking about how scared she was. The New York Democrat originally claimed on Instagram that she believed she was going to die during the January 6th Capitol riot. She claimed to hear rioters outside her office door and that she hid in a bathroom for cover. It was later revealed that Ocasio-Cortez was never in the Capitol building as the chaos ensued. Her critics are claiming that she exaggerated or lied concerning her experience that day. Yes, Apparently, it was an officer who was looking for her because when she was told to stay in her own office, she was so afraid for her life that she left her office, went across the street to her friend's office, and then hung out with her friend. And then, when security was like, where the fuck did she go? We told her to stay in her office. She hid in the bathroom and then claimed that she was for fear of her life from rioters. Like, if it's your job to make sure that these politicians are protected and that they are where they're supposed to be, and you go to find that somebody's not where they're supposed to be, that they've just wandered off, that's your job. That's on you, right? Like, yeah, you're going to be pissed. You're going to be like, where is she? Where is she? Like, I don't know where she is. She's hiding in the bathroom. She's hiding in the bathroom for her Instagram. That's what she's doing. Ridiculous. Anyway, moving on. Their voters wouldn't stand for it. But I'm not saying we need to lie like they do. I'm saying, why not go after Gates and Jordan and link them to Hastert and the Republican Party over and over again? Now, this is very interesting, right? This shows their strategy, okay? Now let's go back up here, right, to where James Carville initially brings this up, right? Tell me this. How is it we have all this talk about Jim Jordan and Matt Gaetz, and we don't talk about Dennis Hastert, okay? The longest-serving Republican Speaker of the House in Congress. If Hastert was a Democrat who we knew had a history of molesting kids and was actually sent to prison in 2016, he'd still be on Fox News every fucking night. The Republicans would never shut the hell up about it. This is what James Carville's stating. I don't think that's... I'm not even sure what he means by that, but I don't think it's true. But anyway, his strategy here is then... So, when Jim Jordan was pulling all these stunts with Anthony Fauci, when, Jim Jordan's questioning Anthony Fauci about what Anthony Fauci has, stated, why didn't someone jump in and say... Let me tell you something, Jim. If Fauci knew what you knew, if he knew that a doctor was molesting young people, he would have gone to the medical board yesterday. So what's the strategy? The strategy is so you can go ahead and shut the fuck up. The strategy is when they start questioning you, when Republicans start questioning Democrats and people in agencies about what it is that they're doing, your strat is not to push back with, better policy and debate them on that argument. No. Your strategy is to call out, bring over some other issue and be like, well, because of this issue that we believe you did, then we're going to, tell you to shut up. You can't talk about this issue because of this whole other thing. When the reality is that's neither here nor there, right? So the strategy is effectively to not address the issue. Their strategy is to attack them for something else, to try to shut them up by accusing them of something else so that they can just move ahead, which is what we've seen for the last 4 years. As soon as you start talking about, hey, maybe raising taxes isn't a good idea, you're a racist, right? Slavery back in the 1800s. What about that? You need to shut up because of slavery. And it's just like, yeah, no. Okay, don't raise taxes, you idiots. Argue with me about taxes. Don't call me a racist Nazi just because you can't argue. Okay? Just, if you can't argue, then retreat. Retreat your statement. Retreat your policy. Just fall back and come up with a good policy. Right? But nope, that's not the strategy. Strategy is accuse them of other things. And we move on. Editorial note. Jordan denies knowing about the allegations of abuse. Now, this was, when he was assistant coach at Ohio State University. This was an incident where one of the doctors there was, he was molesting children there. And he that was a doctor. Jordan was a assistant coach. And so they're trying to accuse him of knowing and doing nothing about it when he says, I didn't know anything about it. Right? And then James Carville goes on, I love that Congresswoman Maxine Waters told Jordan to shut your mouth, but that's what I really wish a Democrat would say, and I wish they'd keep saying it over and over again. In other words, when somebody is going after you for what you've done in political office, do you defend yourself, fight back, show why you did what you did, show the evidence, show the data, all this stuff, why you made your decision, why you felt it was the best decision at the time? No. You tell them to shut up, and you accuse them of stuff that has nothing to do with the topic at hand. That's your strategy. And James Carville wishes they would do it over and over and over again. Which, I mean, where the hell have you been, James? Because that's what they've been doing for the last 4 years. Like, what are you talking about? What world are you living in? Oh my gosh. And then he goes on to talk about how he doesn't believe Florida is a lost cause. Maybe back in 2018 it wasn't, but today it's probably a lost cause. Particularly when they've been doing nothing but demonizing Florida all over the media. And particularly when we've seen just clips of just, oh my gosh, mayors talking about how they're going to arrest people who aren't wearing masks at sporting events. And then they got pictures of that mayor at a sporting event not wearing a mask. It's just like, come on. What world are y'all living in? Anyway, I want to continue reading through this article because another thing that James Carville brings up is just amazing. It's just amazing. Now, let's start with the question from Sean Illing. Republicans aren't just more... It's not even a question, actually. It's just a statement. The interviewer is not even like asking questions at this point. They're both just kind of talking trash on Republicans. Republicans aren't just more comfortable lying. They're more comfortable with slogans and sound bites. And that's partly why they're more effective at defining themselves than the Democrats. Really? Think back to January 6th. Who was it that cut up what Trump said in order to stop it before he mentioned peaceful and patriotically, right? And then tried to use that to get him impeached. Really? Republicans are more comfortable with sound bites? Bullshit. Bullshit. Show me the whole thing. That's all we want. All right? Republican, Libertarian, anyone except for a Democrat, apparently. I don't know. And I'm not even going to say this is all Democrats. I'm sure it can't possibly be all Democrats. But it's a lot of them. It might be the majority of them. And, well, unfortunately, I'm going to be doing another video on this. But unfortunately, I came across a study, mental illness and the left. It does, in fact, seem to show a very correlation. And this is just self-reporting. This is self-reporting, right? Self-reported mental health and self-reported political label, reproduced from Lemony 2020. Self-position, left-right spectrum. 1 is far left, 10 is far right. 10, 11.8% with a little error range here, right? 1, 32% with an error range up to 40%. But that's another video for another time. Anyway, James Carville. Let me give you my favorite example of metropolitan, overeducated arrogance. And he's correct about this, right? Rural individuals, suburban individuals, people who aren't living in cities are typically going to be sitting there and listening to these, elitists from the coasts who live in these really expensive cities who act like they're just better than everybody because everything's so much more expensive, which is interesting. Right, but whatever. Overeducated arrogance. Take the climate problem. Do you realize that climate is the only major social or political movement that I can think of that refuses to use emotion? Refuses to use emotion? Like, colossal climate clock in New York City counts down to global deadline. And it doesn't use emotion because all I've heard is the world's going to end. Fear for your lives, people. We need to do something now. This is a crisis. Really, James? Really, James? It doesn't use emotion? What the fuck kind of world are you living in? Where's the identifiable song? Where's the bumper sticker? Where's the slogan? Where's the flag? Where's the logo? Have you not seen the Earth flag? They got Earth Day flags. They got Earth logos. They got maybe a slogan. I don't know the slogan, honestly. Maybe they don't have a slogan, which would be great. Where's the bumper sticker? You've never seen a bumper sticker about climate change? Because I have. Where's the identifiable song? Thank God they haven't picked one out and put it forward, but there's a lot of them out there. We don't have it because with faculty politics, what you do is appeal to reason. Yeah. Like a reasonable person would, right? Like logic, facts, all this data, you kind of need that stuff, right? You don't need the sloganeering and sound bites. That's for simple people. Well, thank you for letting us know that the Democrats you've been misleading are simpletons. We didn't know. Oh my gosh, all you need are those timetables and temperature charts, and from that, everyone will just get it. Yeah, temperature charts that have actually been manipulated. Climate scientist manipulated temperature data to fool politicians and public, claims whistleblower. This is another case. This isn't the one from Panama, but this is what you do. Okay? And it's for grant money. If you don't understand why a scientist would want to manipulate data, the reason is so they can present that data and be like, look at the important work I'm doing. Look at what I'm figuring out. I need more money. I'm going to need another few $1 million of grant money so I can continue my very important work on this subject that is crucial to humanity's existence. Like, what the fuck kind of world are you living in, bro? Because your timetables, your models, wrong. Your temperature charts, manipulated. And I'm not saying that the Earth doesn't go through a natural warming and cooling thing. The sun is a very interesting, mechanism, I'm going to call it, in the sky. Whereas it's fusion, right? Now, fusion takes lighter atoms, mashes them together, and creates heavier atoms. Over time, what happens is there becomes this shell that builds up around the outside of the sun of these really heavy atoms. And it's kind of hard for the heat to escape. And so some pressure builds up, which means that heat that really didn't escape didn't really reach the Earth. Didn't really reach the Earth got cooler, right? Blast that off. The sun eventually builds up so much pressure, just blast that thing off. And then, okay, now it's warm again. Now it's nice and hot. Things warm up. And then they cool down again. And I'm just amazed at the idea that CO2 is doing it. I don't think CO2 is a bad thing. As far as I know, plants eat it. Plants live off CO2. So if anything, we could always plant more plants, as we, build better technology to make greener things, because I don't like pollution. I don't want to live in a hellhole, right? But at the same time, I also don't want my plants to die. I like my plants, right? And I'm not going to be able to buy CO2 and just put this CO2 chamber over the plants that I want to keep and just feed them with that. And it's just what the hell are they talking about? They talk about it's not being an emotional issue. What the hell? That's a lie. If he doesn't know that he's lying, then all right. Then he's just an idiot, and no wonder Hillary Clinton couldn't do anything in 2008. No wonder when he's gone to work for these other countries, he hasn't won. He's got a pretty losing attitude. Anyway, that's not how the world works. That's not how people work, and Republicans are way more disciplined about taking a thing and branding it. Elites will roll their eyes at that, but I'd ask, how's that working out for you? Most people agree with us on healthcare and minimum wage, and Roe v. Wade, and even on the climate. Yeah, I don't think most people agree with you on healthcare. I understand the argument that we're the only country in the world that doesn't have it. Yet we're also the only country in the world that creates new drugs and innovations. We're the only country that actually has any of that. Every other country kind of depends on us innovating in the medical field in order for them to even keep their systems running. But whatever. And you want to hear, take a look at the coronavirus in the UK. What's the message? Save the NHS. Protect the NHS. Why? Because the NHS would crumble otherwise. It just would. Canada. Not really the similar issue. You got to admit the populations of those places are pretty small compared to the US. But whatever. Oh my gosh. So why can't we leverage that? Because you can't leverage if you don't understand it. And it's just you clearly don't know what the hell's going on, James. You clearly don't. Right? Now, let's move on into an area of this article that I have not read previously. So this is going to be a nice little live thing. What would you have Biden do to counter some of these messaging problems? Counter messaging problems. Maybe they should worry about their own messaging problems, right? Southern border crisis was a messaging problem. All throughout the campaign, The rhetoric was, oh, we're going to let you in. You have a right to be here, all this. And they believed it. And then next thing you know, they're pouring up. And everybody, even Democrats, are like, this is a problem. This is a problem. Do something. Okay, we'll call it a crisis, but we won't say that it's the White House's official stance on a crisis. And I'm just like, come on. Like, really? So anyway, let's just move on. What does James Carville suggest? I'd have him pick up a phone. I'd have someone in the White House pick up the phone, because Biden may not be able to pick up a phone. And when someone in the party starts this jargon shit, I'd call them and say, we're only a vote away. Our approval rating is 60%. We got a chance to pick up seats in 2022, and if you did this, it would be very helpful to us. What? That's the most vague-ass thing I've ever seen. That's what you would do? Are you sure those calls aren't happening already? Maybe they are. But they need to be more effective, and we need more of them. Oh my gosh, so you need to hound your own party members? Yeah, alright, I'm for it. There's a philosophy on the left right now, which says the Democrats should pass everything they possibly can, no matter the costs, and trust that the voters will reward them on the back end. Where do you end on that? That's the philosophy on the left right now? Just pass everything you possibly can, no matter how much it costs, and then just hope that voters aren't going to be absolutely enraged? Look, when your burger doubles in price, you're going to be pissed. When your gas triples in price, you're going to be pissed. When your roads are still shit after this infrastructure plan, you're going to be so pissed. When you're stuck in traffic for the next 10 to 20 years because of this infrastructure plan, you are going to be beyond pissed. James Carville. First of all, the Democrat Party can't be more liberal than Senator Joe Manchin. Can't be more liberal than Senator Joe Manchin. I kind of like where he's going with this, but Senator Joe Manchin's the guy who's like, no, we're keeping the filibuster, and you're going to have to do something on gun control that meets my end. And so, they're like, oh gosh, we really need to kind of let Senator Joe Manchin set the tone. I'm all right with that. It means the least amount of damage as possible might occur over the next 4 years. And James Carville continues, that's the fact. We don't have the votes, but I'll say this. 2 of the most consequential political events in recent memory happened on the same day in January. The insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. I don't even think it was a riot, let alone an insurrection. And the Democrats winning those 2 seats in Georgia. Can't overstate that. Yeah, okay. What's interesting is how the Democrats may have won those 2 seats. Of course, I don't know. They may have won them legitimately. Who knows? It's Georgia. And from what I've heard from people I trust and experts, Georgia's, you can buy anything. Anyway, but the Democrats can't fuck it up. They already have. They have to make the Republicans own that insurrection every day. They have to pound it. They have to call bookers on cable news shows. They have to get people to write op-eds. There will be all kinds of investigations and stories dripping out for God knows how long, and the Democrats should spend every day tying all of it to the Republican Party. They can't sit back and wait for it to happen. Honestly, you're not going to get any Republicans that way. You're not going to. Republicans saw that, and if they were, pro-Trump before, they were pro-Trump after. If they were anti-Trump before, they were anti-Trump after. Didn't change a damn thing. Your messaging, your sound bites, the Democrats doing all that crap, accusing Americans of killing people, right? People who had a heart attack on that day and died of it, who were miles from the Capitol, were considered a death caused by the riot, according to media. So you're going to sit there and you're going to say, oh man, our messaging, it just isn't like this. No, that's what your messaging is. That's what your messaging is already, James. And you didn't, in case you didn't know, which of course you didn't know because you're saying this stuff right here, you just didn't know that your messaging is already this messaging. And you just don't realize that this messaging isn't getting you anywhere, right? Now, he has a problem with the defund the police statements, right? But of course, Sean Illing is like, well, the Democrats, they've got lots of different people inside there. They can't control everybody in the party from making, these statements and stuff like that. But the Republicans can. And it's just like, so what you're saying is the Democrat Party is kind of split between the far left and the moderate left? Okay, yeah, I'd say that's about right. Hell, just imagine if it was a bunch of non-white people who stormed the Capitol. What the fuck difference does it make? Oh, right. They're racists who think America's racist and that, like, everybody's racist. And so race is, like, important to them. But, whatever. Imagine how Republicans would exploit that. What? Look, Antifa is white, mostly, okay? And that's what we mostly demonize them for. They say, oh, Antifa is a myth. Antifa's not real. No, Antifa is your little military group, right? You may be, not have any financial ties. You may not have any direct ties, but you have definitely stirred the pot. And you have definitely set up the situation where you're using these people, the mentally ill on the farthest left spectrum, to your political advantage by threatening, intimidating, destroying. And you're going to sit there and say, oh, well, we got a messaging problem. Like, how can we take this burning building and turn it into something for us? Like, that's your problem? That's where it's like, hey, how about maybe not letting the building get burned in the first place? How about not inciting a bunch of people to start a riot in the first place? No, you can't do that? Okay, well then, fuck you. Every political debate would be about that. The Republicans would bludgeon the Democrats with it forever. Yeah, I don't think we would say anything about the races of the individuals involved. We would be more concerned with the political ideologies of the people involved, right? But of course, they wouldn't know this because these people haven't taken the time to even discuss it. These are the people who, when they find out you are Republican, they're like, oh, well, I don't want to talk to you. I shouldn't talk to you. These are the people who, when American soldiers were being held by the Syrian government, they wouldn't talk to the Syrian government to try to get the soldiers back. They wouldn't even negotiate because, oh, well, we just don't talk to the people. And that's your job. When it was their job to be talking to people to get those soldiers out of that prison in Syria, they're just like, well, we just don't talk. And it's just like, what the fuck? And these are the kind of people that are in office right now, right? So for the next 4 years, I suggest being incredibly careful, right? Oh man, load up on supplies. We don't know what's going to happen, but we need to be on the defensive. Something's going to happen because with people like this in power, no problems are going to be solved. So whatever you think Republicans would do to us in that scenario, that's exactly what the hell we need to do to them. Really? So whatever you think Republicans would do. Now, these are people who think Republicans are racist Nazis. Okay? So don't sit there and tell these people that do what you think a racist Nazi would do. That's your plan, James? That's your plan? To do what you believe a racist Nazi would do? Holy shit. What the fuck kind of world? Who the hell can support this shit? I'm amazed. But whatever, I'm going to try to do the right Christian thing about it. And, love your neighbor, love your enemy, be patient. Fuck me. The next 4 years is going to be America on its period. Just warn the world, everyone. Warn the world. America's bleeding.